seeker, whoever you are, wherever and however you are, I tell you, even now, there are waters, great waters of aliveness, deep inside your being, ones yet to be found, yet to behold, be tasted. A great river of aliveness, wholeness, and possibility flowing within you. The same river that flows through the living world, the natural world, that flows from the same source, that follows a course all mighty rivers follow, to a greatly opening, welcoming sea. Welcome to the latest Floating Poetry broadcast, and thank you for leaning in to show 188, coming to you live from the ever-flowing coast of Rhode Island. This is your poet and guiding spirit in the poetosphere, Colin Goedecke, a voice here and elsewhere for living our days more fully, more alively, more poetically. Last week's broadcast was on the gifts of the snow and the ice, things that, yes, have their practical downsides, but looked at through another lens, a poetic lens, offer myriad upsides, gifts of beauty, mystery, purity, wonder, and more. Gifts from nature that keep coming, that we can count on as both example and symbol of nature's remarkable continuity. Well, this week, finding your wellsprings, the things that fill you with well-being, the sources of joy, ease, peace, harmony, balance, wholeness, wonder, beauty, humanity, possibility, findable inside you and around you in nature and in other fountaining places, like nourishing relationships, deeply satisfying experiences, oases of heartfulness, spirit, imagination. Yes, a wealth of wellsprings for us to seek out, bring our inner and outer selves to, and drink from, often, and across the arc, across the seasons of our lives, to keep us fresh and replenished, vibrant and vivid, emotionally and deeply hydrated. What could be more essential than this? Especially in these demanding and often depleting times. So I've put together a broadcast for all of us around this theme, a show of cultural commentary, poetry, anecdotes, and more to help us remember to go where all the wellsprings are, and go there gladly, and go there gratefully. Maybe we'll start by saying a great yes to the universe. Oh, yes. What you say when the universe offers you another eclair or espresso, kiss or centavo. When you wake to another day alive, in good health and heart, on earth. When you realize every moment as it arrives, with or without fanfare, flower petals, confetti, is brimming with serendipity, overspilling fountain-like, with all possibility. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, summer, and especially summer by the sea, anytime, is vitalizing for my whole being, and perhaps yours too, or other places, for the inner and outer senses. But in my case, not least, golden times earlier on the South Fork of Long Island, and now on the coast of Rhode Island. This was back in July of 1998 in Sagaponack, New York. Perhaps Provence. Pedaling behind you and your south of France chapeau, a wide-brimmed beehive buzzing with beauty, your pale linens blousing in the breeze. Pedaling past the purple and gold-swallowed meadow, the chartreuse-stained barn, the soon-to-be sunflowered field of another August, past fountains of blue hydrangea and flocks of rose hips and tiger lilies, down to the absinthe ocean. Mary Oliver's poem, The Summer Day, one of my great favorites, you may know it. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? The Summer Day. Thank you, Mary Oliver. Always worth reading and rereading. Refeeling. Joanna Macy said, gratitude for the gift of life is the primary wellspring of all religions, the hallmark of the mystic, the source of all true art. Thank you, Joanna Macy. I'm in great agreement with that. May Swenson, Fountains of Aix, A-I-X, as in Aix-de-Provence. Beards of water, some of them have. Others are blowing whistles of water. Faces astonished that constant water jumps from their mouths. Jaws of lions are snarling water through green teeth over chins of moss. Dolphins toss jets of water from open snouts to an upper theater of water. Children are riding swans and water coils from the S-shaped necks and spills and flat foils and from pincered bills. A solemn curly-headed bull puts out a swollen tongue of water. Cupids naked are making water into a font that never is full. A goddess is driving a chariot through water. Her reins and whips are tight white water. Bronze hoofs of horses wrangle with water. Marble faces half hidden in leaves. Faces whose hair is leaves and grapes of stone are peering from living leaves. Faces with mossy lips unlocked, always uttering water, water, wearing their features blank, their ears deaf, their eyes mad or patient or blind or astonished at water always uttered out of their mouths. Thank you, May Swenson. Fountains of Aix, from her collection Nature, Poems Old and New. I know a good bit of her work, but not that, and I have actually beheld those beautiful fountains there in France, in the southern part of France, in Aix-en-Provence, and I loved looking at them, sensing into them her way through her eyes and poetic senses. This is from On Being by the contemplative Parker J. Palmer, seeking sanctuary in our own sacred spaces. This was from 2016. When I was a kid, quote, sanctuary meant only one thing. It was the big room with the stained glass windows and hard wooden benches where my family worshipped every Sunday. Church attendance was not optional for my sisters and me, so that sanctuary was where I learned to pray. Pray that the service would end and God would release me back into the wild. I love that. God would release me back into the wild. That's where we all, I think, belong, our wilder places of heart and being. I also learned that not all prayers are answered, no matter how ardent. Today, after 77 years of life in a world that's both astonishingly beautiful and horrifically cruel, quote, sanctuary is as vital as breathing to me. Sometimes I find it in churches, monasteries, and other sites designated as sacred, but more often I find it in places sacred to my soul, in the natural world, in the company of a trustworthy friend, in solitary or shared silence, in the ambiance of a good poem or good music. Sanctuary is wherever I find safe space to regain my bearings, reclaim my soul, heal my wounds, and return to the world as a wounded healer. It's not merely about finding shelter from the storm. It's about spiritual survival. Today, seeking sanctuary is no more optional for me than church attendance was as a child. Parker Palmer, thank you so much for your good thoughts there. Important thoughts. What housekeeping are you doing so all can flow fully and beautifully, or more so? This was from Sag Harbor, New York, June of 2017. Housekeeping. Keeping up the house of the being. Straightening and polishing the furniture of the body. Sweeping clean the gathered dust of the mind. Freshly making the bed of the heart. Preparing nourishing food for the soul. Always good to do housekeeping of that kind. I have questions, of course, as I often do, for us, for you, in this case about finding your wellsprings, including what your biggest wellsprings are in your days right now. And are they very different from what they were a year or two ago, or 3? And what about compared to 10 years ago, or farther back in time? And if they are different, how so? How conscious are you of them? Do you actually go about thinking of them? And how actively or generously do you fill or refill them, draw from them? And how do you know when you need to? What are the signals? Well, since finding, quote, finding, as I'm using that word, infers a search, and searching infers a set of skills, what skills do you have, or do you need for this kind of finding? Where is your divining rod when you know you're getting closer to some vitalizing source? Do you share your refreshment with others, or do you covet it? I hope you share it. What feeds the wellspring of your heart? The wellspring of your mind? The wellspring of your spirit or your soul? What havens, what sanctuaries of the kinds that Parker Palmer talked about, or safe harbors, do you have or need that help you stay vital, help you get better replenished? It could be literal or other kinds. What relationship in your life offers you a great oasis, a place to quench your thirsty being? Or some place like home, or your own bath or bed? What experiences have you had of your wellsprings running low or dry? And contrarily, of them overflowing, overspilling? And what were those like, those experiences? Just as we each individually need healthy, flowing wellsprings, what about ones for our communities, for our countries, for our cultures, for our humanity? What might you see those as, or do you see those as? Love to hear from you about that. Feel free to write me. What's your intent or practice around your wellsprings, from finding fresh, new ones to tending your existing ones? And how grateful are you for the sources of your vitalness, your wholeness, your happiness? Things to ponder, dear listeners. More things to ponder. Including what happens when all your wellsprings are flowing and beautifully filling you. When you're in a state of what I call native vibrance. Here's a poem of mine from as I was flaneuring around Brooklyn and New York, September 2017. Everything is vivid. The curled brim of that leaving man's dove-gray fedora. The clear light falling on this young girl's yellow hair. The sensuous lips of the wavily scarved woman by the fountain. The sun-bronzed shoulders of a lone beachcomber, of an umbrellaed sleeper. An outspread hand on a gossamered chest framed in a looking-glass. The hips of a cream-white vase holding clouds of pale pink flowers. The morning legs of chairs turned up on the tables of closed cafes. The feet of statues standing silently inside this moving city. Everything is vivid. Everything can be vivid. Everything can be more vivid than you can imagine. Every day. Sometimes wildly vivid. Sometimes you almost need sunglasses, it's so vivid. Sanctuary. I'd like to come back to that for a moment, that like Parker Palmer was talking about in the other piece. Because having sanctuaries, having retreats, havens, refuges, oases of calm, small or large, are important to have or create. Here's Eda Limon, a sanctuary. Suppose it's easy to slip into another's green skin. Bury yourself in leaves and wait for a breaking open, a breaking out. I have, before, been tricked into believing I could be both an I and the world. The great I of the world is both gaze and gloss, to be swallowed by being seen, a dream, to be made whole by being not a witness, but witnessed. Ada Limon, thank you. Sanctuary. To be made whole by being not a witness, but witnessed. Yes. Well, as we head past fall, soon into winter, body and spirit and landscape, we have an opportunity to go, I would say, helpfully inward, maybe even essentially inward to some extent, to go with the wintering into some hibernating, like parts of the natural world around us here in the northern hemisphere. Well, this was one of my goings in December of 2016, back in New Jersey at that particular time. I called this piece Hibernacle. Obviously, merging the idea of hibernation and tabernacle is something sacred. So a sacred hibernation, I suppose we could say, or place of. Hibernacle. A sanctuary for one embering spirit, out of public view, other people's reach. A sacred inner place where fresh bread and honest wine for the soul are kept, to nourish it whenever more nourishment, more replenishment is needed. A hallowed place we can each learn to find, enter, be, for communing in solitude with our source, our kindling essence. What about that wellspring we can find in stillness, in deep presence, in silence? This is Jane Hirschfield's piece. On the fifth day. On the fifth day, the scientists who studied the rivers were forbidden to speak or to study the rivers. The scientists who studied the air were told not to speak of the air, and the ones who worked for the farmers were silenced, and the ones who worked for the bees. Someone from deep in the Badlands began posting facts. The facts were told not to speak and were taken away. The facts, surprised to be taken, were silent. Now it was only the rivers that spoke of the rivers, and only the wind that spoke of its bees, while the unpausing, factual buds of the fruit trees continued to move toward their fruit. The silence spoke loudly of silence, and the rivers kept speaking of rivers, of boulders and air. In gravity, earless and tongueless, the untested rivers kept speaking. Bus drivers, shelf stockers, code writers, machinists, accountants, lab techs, cellists kept speaking. They spoke the fifth day of silence. Thank you, Jane Hirschfield. Wonderful. I know her work too, but not that piece. Till putting together material for us. Love her work. If you don't know her work, I point you to her in it. Here's Marie Howe from her collection, What the Living Do. This is the copper beech, as in the copper beech tree. Immense, entirely itself. It wore that yard like a dress, with limbs low enough for me to enter it and climb the crooked ladder to where I could lean against the trunk and practice being alone. One day, I heard the sound before I saw it. Rain fell, darkening the sidewalk. Sitting close to the center, not very high in the branches, I heard it hitting the high leaves, and I was happy, watching it happen without it happening to me. Copper Beech, thank you, Marie Howe. That. Yes, where are your retreats from the hugger-mugger of time and space and places, other places that are a bit overwrought? Oh, this was one of mine, May 2016 in the Lawantaka Brook Reservation in New Jersey in the countryside. Lawantaka, the place of cold winter, the long-gone natives called it. Once a place of hunting for the Lenape, refuge for revolutionary soldiers. Now an oasis for birders and walkers like me, disappearing under green canopies, reappearing past thin, rustling walls of reeds to the still and moving pond where a blue heron stilts about for supper. A white swan idles elegantly, nonchalantly. Dozens of swifts air dance after insects only they can see, and red-winged blackbirds, sergeant major, yes, sirly, round the perimeter. Though I am the only visitor this sunset hour, far from winters and wars, cities and cacophonies. Lawantaka, always a good touchstone for me to go back to the poems and memories of there. Amy Lowell, The Broken Fountain. This is from her collection, Pictures of the Floating World from 1919. The Broken Fountain. Oblong, its jutted ends rounding into circles, the old sunken basin lies with its flat marble lip an inch below the terrace tiles. Over the stagnant water slide reflections, the blue-green of coned yews, the purple and red of trailing fuchsias dripping out of marble urns, bright squares of sky ribbed by the wake of a swimming beetle. Through the blue-bronze water wavers the pale uncertainty of a shadow. An arm flashes through the reflections. A breast is outlined with leaves. Outstretched in the quiet water, the statue of a goddess slumbers. But when autumn comes, the beech leaves cover her with a golden counterpane. Wonderful. Thank you, Amy Lowell, for that. I mentioned the bath and the bed earlier as maybe a place of solace, solitude, wellspringing. This is the solitude of the shower, written at my then home in New York City on Central Park West, November 2004. The solitude of the shower. In this white-tiled temple, all is pure, all is quiet, save for the sound of clear water falling and cleansing. The light that pours through the window and drawn white curtain is luminous, like the wet skin of my arms and legs, of my open hands and feet, of my glistening face reflected in the mirror on the shelf where fragrant bars of olive and citrus soap rest. In this warm bubble where I can be wholly alone with myself, where it's always safe, always welcoming, always full of solitude. Well, I imagine for so many of you, of us, that home is a big wellspring. The comfort, the solace, the happiness of home. Well, here's a blessing on each of your dwellings, each of your homes, whether you've newly begun living in them or have lived in them a long time. There's still things to create and recreate there in terms of wellsprings. So this is a blessing on the making of your oasis. May the oasis you create here be a place of strong beamed heart you're glad and grateful to live in, breathe and behold yourself in, be gracefully embraced by. Be a home you feel truly and deeply at home in. May you make it each day, all seasons, a home of clear spirit, so spirit can clearly enter. A home of good health, so well-being will dwell there. May you fill it with pure joy, so joy nests with bright-colored feathers, jubilant song, in every room, on every sill, under every eave. May you, as the oasis maker and householder, as its tender and inhabiter, love and bring your love to all the times and dreams you enter here. Appreciate the comfort and solace your body and soul find and feel here. Savor the memories and harmonies, great and small, you create here, that will resonate inside its walls. And may you never cease celebrating the precious, gracious life you get to have and share with other hearts and spirits in this home, your house of being, your oasis of becoming, a whole-souled place of belonging. Blessings. Well, what is home for you? What does it represent? What's the feeling place of it? What's the feeling place especially? Well, this poem came to me flying across the Atlantic from Greece one summer, one of two summers I'd spent there. This was the summer of 2012. And this poem came into me as I was coming back. And, it's called Home. It's a bungalow on a blue Canadian bay. It's a green-shuttered room on an island in the Aegean. It's not the once home house of wood and brick I fly 5,000 miles back to. It's this body of blood and bone, energy and memory, essence and awareness. It's this self I make thousands of feelings, thousands of healings into. My walls and windows, porch and kitchen, bedroom, living room, wine cellar, roof garden, study, bath, a sanctuary that surrounds me wherever I go, wherever I am. So we can always be at home in our beings. Yes. Wherever we are, that can be our home. A few quotes that struck me to share. This is first one is from Diane Ackerman, the author and poet. At dawn, the world rises out of darkness, slowly, sense grain by grain, as if from sleep, life becomes visible once again. When it is dark, it seems to me as if I were dying and I can't think any more, Claude Monet once lamented. More light. Goethe begged from his deathbed. Dawn is the wellspring of more light, the origin of our first to last days as we roll in space, over 7 billion of us in one global petri dish, shot through with sunlight, in our cells, in our minds, in our myriad metaphors of rebirth, and all the extensions to our senses that we create to enlighten our days and navigate our nights. Thank you, Diane Ackerman. And John Muir, the great naturalist, this grand show is eternal. It is always sunrise somewhere. The dew is never dried all at once. A shower is forever falling. Vapor is ever rising. Eternal sunrise, eternal dawn and gloaming on sea and continents and islands, each in its turn as the round earth rolls. Wonderful. Thank you, John Muir, for that. John Montague, Paths. We had 2 gardens. A real flower garden overhanging the road, our miniature Babylon. Paths which I helped to lay with Aunt Winifred, rip-wrapped with pebbles, shards of painted delf, an old potato boiler, a blackened metal pot, now bright with petals. Hedges of laurel, palm, a hovering scent of boxwood. Crouched in the flowering lilac, I could oversee the main road. Old Lynch marched to the wellspring with his bucket, whistling, his carroty sons herding in and out their milk cows, a growing whine of cars. Then the vegetable garden, behind, rows of broad beans plumping their cushions, the furled freshness of tight little lettuce heads, slim green pea pods above early flowering potatoes, gross clumps of carrots, parsnips, a frailty of parsley, a cool fragrance of mint. Sealed off by sweet pea clambering up its wired fence, the tarred goat's shack which stank in summer in its fallow stone-heaped corner. With, on the grassy margin, a well-wired chicken run, cheeping balls of fluff brought 1 to 1 into the sun from their metallic mother, the oil-fed incubator, always in danger from the marauding cat or the stealthy hungry vixen. I, their small guardian. 2 gardens, the front for beauty, the back for use. Sleepless now, I wander through both, and it is summer again, the long summers of youth as I trace small paths in a trance of growth. Flowers pluck at my coat as I bend down to help or speak to my aunt, whose calloused hands, caressing the plants, are tender as a girl's. Thank you very much. John Montague, new poet and poem for me, and maybe you. Which brought me to Robert Macfarlane, Macfarlane, The Footpath to Yourself, on Landscape as a Lens on Inner Life. He has an absolutely beautiful book called The Old Ways, a journeying on foot, or a journey rather on foot. He's a very poetic nature writer. He's written other great books that I've read. This is the final book in his trilogy on Landscape as a Lens on Inner Life, exploring the, quote, relationship between paths walking in the imagination through his experience of walking more than 1,000 miles along ancient paths, only to find himself delivered more fully into the present. I'm pointing you to that book, or to give somebody that book. Well, here's as I thought about places that we travel to near or far away that do or can nourish us in their beauty or their history or their mystery, this was on an ancient footpath from the village of Iolis to Otsia on the island of Kea in the Aegean. Speaking of Greece earlier, this was that same August, but I was leaving at that other poem, but here I was there. And I realized I was moving over the footsteps of 2 of the greatest poets of ancient Greece who lived on that island, Bacchylides and Simonides. And here I was walking where they would have walked. So I'd love to read it to you, and I might even play the musically scored version. Wonderful younger composer, Jacob Friedman, scored it back in time for one of the Olympics that I was contributing to culturally. And I'll read it to you and maybe play it. That was good. I guess I'm christening the deck here with the water now. Moving over millennia. My feet move over millennia of men's sandaled footsteps on these dromas, rising and falling with the terrain, just as they rose and fell on cool marble underfoot. Walking under hours of sun, over marble and dry earth scattered with acorn shells, between stone-stacked walls and olive groves, through curtains of cicadas, wind, breath, sometimes with glimpses of celadon and cerulean, oases of sea. My feet move with mindfulness over their millennia. A poem from Greece, from the Cyclades, from the island of Kea, moving over millennia. My feet move over millennia of men's sandaled footsteps on these dromas, rising and falling with the terrain just as they rose and fell on cool marble underfoot, walking under hours of sun, over marble and dry earth scattered with acorn shells, between stone-stacked walls and olive groves, through curtains of cicadas, wind, breath, sometimes with glimpses of celadon and cerulean, oases of sea. My feet move with mindfulness over their millennia. Well, I was talking about blessing our literal homes. I was talking about with you about home as our beingness and our bodies as well as these great containers and providers of wellspringing from the inside out. I think important for us to, of course, nourish that central wellspring, our very bodies, without which nothing else really matters, does it? But not just nourish them, but appreciate and honor our bodies, and do that often, I would say. And I do my best to do that. I did this. Well, it was one particular time I'm going to share. It was in a poem form. Rockland Harbor, Rockland, Maine, October 2017. I bless this body while the town sleeps and dreams behind me, and pined islands lay silently, invisibly, off the salt-tongued shore. I rise, bare-bodied, from my warm bed out into the cool, falling rain, to bless this being of flesh and bone, heart and soul, to feel the wildness of nature. Let the blissful, sensual world touch my willing skin, bathe my upraised face, fill my upturned palms. Let the elements of this pure living place anoint me on this pouring autumn night. The German humanistic philosopher and psychologist Erich Fromm, F-R-O-M-M, he lived from 1900 to 1980. From his first major work, Escape from Freedom, his classic 1941 inquiry into how to cope with our moral aloneness. And I'm bringing this up because he talks so essentially of spontaneity, and that for me and to me is a precious wellspring, just like curiosity is. So I wanted to give you some of his words here. There is nothing more attractive and convincing than spontaneity, whether it is to be found in a child, in an artist, or in those individuals who cannot thus be grouped according to age or profession. Most of us can observe at least moments of our own spontaneity, which are at the same time moments of genuine happiness, whether it be the fresh and spontaneous perception of a landscape, or the dawning of some truth as the result of our thinking, or a sensuous pleasure that is not stereotyped, or the welling up of love for another person. In these moments we all know what a spontaneous act is, and may have some vision of what human life could be if these experiences were not such rare and uncultivated occurrences. Thank you, Erich Fromm. Spontaneity, friends. So vitally beautiful and so beautifully vital. Memories, too, can be great wellsprings. Here's an invitation, I suppose I could say, from February of 2022. Drink from the well. Draw from the well, the deep well, the cool, clear wellspring of your memory. Drink at will, at ease, from the dipped ladle or from cupped hands. The fresh waters of your best rememberings, cherished unforgettings. The well you keep refilling, never to fall low or ever run dry. I was thinking, too, as I was putting things together, of dear friends and the inspiration of the ways they live their lives that can be wellsprings for us. I'm fortunate to have ones around me. This is one of others. This is Dick Russack. Bearing fruit is what, like a bountiful tree in a well-loved orchard, you have been doing across your long and ever-ripening life, turning the earth, sun, water, and air of each year into an abundance of flowers, seeds, and luscious fruits for you and us to feast on. Love out to him and appreciation for being a wellspring for me. It's another friend of mine who is, but I chose this poem for us because I wanted to just say something about how music, of course, both heard and made, give us wellsprings of feeling, not least. And here's a piece for a gifted musician friend of mine, Grant Peterson, singer and guitarist, incredible singer and guitarist. Well strung, your guitar, the one you serenade the world with, a world of hearts you play and sing to, with a heart and soul you deeply come from, flow from. You, strung with passion, as a musician, as a man, through seasons of listening, carefully listening, and learning, and humbly mastering, now to places public and private, animate, intimate, where you're ever more gladly, greatly, grandly resonating. Appreciations out to him. Another important wellspring in my life of decades long now. Physicist Brian Greene on the poetry of existence and the wellspring of meaning in our ephemeral lives amid an impartial universe. This is from his book Until the End of Time. Mind, Matter, and Our Search for Meaning in an Evolving Universe. Brian Greene with an E on the end. Most of us deal quietly with the need to lift ourselves beyond the everyday. Most of us allow civilization to shield us from the realization that we are part of a world that, when we're gone, will hum along, barely missing a beat. We focused our energy on what we can control. We build community. We participate. We care. We laugh. We cherish. We comfort. We grieve. We love. We celebrate. We consecrate. We regret. We thrill to achievement, sometimes our own, sometimes of those we respect or idolize. Through it all, we grow accustomed to looking out to the world to find something to excite or soothe, to hold our attention or whisk us to someplace new. Yet the scientific journey we've taken suggests strongly that the universe does not exist to provide an arena for life and mind to flourish. Life and mind are simply a couple of things that happen to happen, until they don't. I used to imagine that by studying the universe, by peeling it apart figuratively and literally, we would answer enough of the how questions to catch a glimpse of the answers to the whys. But the more we learn, the more that stance seems to face in the wrong direction. Thank you, Brian Green. And he has one other thought here, actually. I wasn't sure I wanted to share it too, just in the interest of time, but I think we have time for me to share it with you. Whereas most life, miraculous in its own right, is tethered to the immediate, we can step outside of time. We can think about the past. We can imagine the future. We can take in the universe. We can process it. We can explore it with mind and body, with reason and emotion. From our lonely corner of the cosmos, we have used creativity and imagination to shape words and images and structures and sounds to express our longings and frustrations, our confusions and revelations, our failures and triumphs. We have used ingenuity and perseverance to touch the very limits of outer and inner space, determining fundamental laws that govern how stars shine and light travels, how time elapses and space expands. Laws that allow us to peer back to the briefest moment after the universe began, and then shift our gaze and contemplate its end. So there you have that. Poet and writer Muriel Rukeyser. This is from her biography of the father of physical chemistry, probably many people don't know, Willard Gibbs, who lived from 1839 to 1903. So in that book she said, "It is at this moment that we turn. In the imaginations which tap that energy, in the energy itself and its release, we see our power. Man, the mystery, man, the pure force, man, the taproot of naked vision, the source himself, will look in such a moment for deeper sources, for the sources of power that can bring a fuller life to a desperate time. We cut away the old life, cutting down to the root. And the root of such power, of such invention, is in the imaginative lives of certain men and women, responding in their way and with their proper kinds of love to the wishes of history, that is, to the wishes of the people at that moment, however disguised, however premature and dark." Thank you, Muriel Rukeyser. Well, now coming into our last musings and sharings for this week, for this time together. Alberto Rios, we are of a tribe. We plant seeds in the ground and dreams in the sky, hoping that someday the roots of one will meet the upstretched limbs of the other. It has not happened yet. We share the sky, all of us, the whole world. Together we are a tribe of eyes that look upward, even as we stand on uncertain ground. The earth beneath us moves, quiet and wild, its boundaries shifting, its muscles wavering. The dream of sky is indifferent to all this, impervious to borders, fences, reservations. The sky is our common home, the place we all live. There we are in the world together. The dream of sky requires no passport. Blue will not be fenced. Blue will not be a crime. Look up. Stay a while. Let your breathing slow. Know that you always have a home here. Thank you, Alberto Rios, from Poetry of Presence, an anthology of mindfulness. I don't have much water left from the spill. Just a little sip. Okay. This is from Richard Rohr's Daily Meditation from the Center for Action and Contemplation, Week 39, Sacred Space, Sacred Refuge, from her podcast, The Cosmic We, Barbara Holmes. She describes the transformative benefits that can emerge from crisis if we allow them. I see crisis contemplation becoming a refuge. When everything around you is beyond your control and you shatter, you find within you a space of solitude, peace, and refuge that allows you to begin to gather yourself again. A wellspring of discernment in a disordered life space. In other words, there is this moment of shattering where we can do nothing and we have an opportunity to be still. Many of us operate on instinct and impulse, but there is a way to live where we're operating out of discernment and where there is a knowing that is beyond our own. Yes. Maybe a garden you have or spend time in or used to is a wellspring for you and the garden of your being and your world. Like this one I speak of in a poem I wrote for a dear friend, Jane Hewson, in Vermont. In your garden, the garden of your life, there's always sun, always fresh air and fertile soil, much color, much beauty. In the garden of life you live in, so lovingly tend and spend your days in, the oasis life has made for you, that you have made of your verdant, vibrant life. There's always the singing of birds, the jubilant song of your heart, the never-ending flowering of your whole being. About to her. Joyce Sutphen, the second half. Everyone will go on celebrating the old birthday, counting the years as usual, but I will count myself new from this inception, this imprint of my own desire. The second half of my life will be wide-eyed, fingers shifting through fine sands, arms loose at my sides, wandering feet. There will be new dreams every night, and the drapes will never be closed. I will toss my string of keys into a deep well and old letters into the grate. The second half of my life will be ice breaking up on the river, rain soaking the fields, a hand held out, a fire, and smoke going upward, always up. Thank you, Joyce Sutphen. Thank you. Are you keeping your well of joy well filled? This is from my exhibition of theater on paper, Behind the Curtain. This is from the debut of spring, which was in spring of 2018 in New York. Go where the joy is, and go there often. Every moment you can, to meet, feel, revel in it. Drink it in, pour it out, share it round. To the four corners of your world, to the rafters, to the rooftops. It's what feeds your fountain of youthfulness, your wellspring of well-being, your peace of heart and mind, daily, all life longly. This is from November, actually, of this year, for a young man on a life quest, literally exploring the world and himself on a motorcycle around the world. Alex Schwarzkopf. This is a life changer. And it begins with this chant. Kundalini Mata Shakti, Namo Namo. As you receive the energy that moves the universe, as you dance with the divinity of the cosmos you have found and felt in the desert, the canyons and mountains, the rivers, oceans, and constellations. As you recreate your world, as you flow with rising life force, as you flow from your soul source, a blessing for your presence, a blessing for your emergence, a blessing for your transcendence. I send those back out to him again since November as he travels around. Well, next to last, May of 2018, Emerson said it so well. Live in the sunshine. There's no other place I can live, wish to live, with a love, with friends, with myself. Swim in the sea. A livelier stroke and afloat in salty blue, cool green oceans, likewise in glimmer-glass seas of possibility that invite, that invoke. Drink the wild air. Drinking in all the wildness, my senses, 5 and 6, confined in the open, can absorb in the atmospheres of. Thank you, Ralph Waldo, for your essential knowing, your urging, this inspiriting. And last for now, till we're together again over these airwaves, my friends. This was October of 2023. It was a blessing for Sana Blasco Felix on her baptism, but it's a blessing, I would say, for all of us. Holy waters, may those that pour here over your tender head join you with the flow of grace, with the steady current of spirit. May they stream greatly and freely through your life, a long, loving, and grateful life, from the sky and the clouds, to soak you in nature's bounty, from the rivers and oceans, to bathe you in freshness, float you in beauty, from the fountain of the morning shower, to daily cleanse and clarify your perfect body, and from your heart, your sacred heart, to wet your face with feeling, to let us drink from the spring of your soul, from the deep well of your being. Thank you again, friends, for leaning in, thinking and feeling in, for drinking from this wellspring together. I'd be glad if you shared this or other show links with friends or pointed them this way. I'd also welcome hearing your comments or contemplations from listening, including your experience of this show on finding your wellsprings. Likewise, any contribution you might wish to make of appreciation for these weekly shows I create to illuminate and enliven you. You can do so by Venmo to Fivefold, Fivefold, at pipeline.com, or by PayPal to the same email. Or you can simply email, or rather mail a check to me to P.O. Box 1032, Westerly, Rhode Island, 02891, or donate through my site, thepoetorialist.com, by way of the Donate tab. Is there some yet explored theme you'd like to see a future broadcast on? If so, email me, Colin, at thepoetisphere.com. And yes, patrons can at times also privately host or sponsor me as a working poet in residence in the U.S. or beyond to create a new flight of poetic art dedicated to them. Email me to explore. Meanwhile, you can hear all the broadcasts online on YouTube on the Floating Poetry playlist. You can also explore, as a visitor or subscriber by the month or more, the oasis of regenesis I'm guiding, the poetisphere.com. If you haven't heard of it yet or been there yet, going to explore, there is a tasting menu there. It's a source of openings and vitalizings and flowings, from micro experiences and conversations of deeper kinds to contemplations and a wonderful community of kindred spirits, of possibilitarians. I'm also making month-long and year-long subscriptions possible for the holidays for you, my listeners, at a much reduced membership using the code GLADTIDINGS, all one word, Glad Tidings, whether for yourself or to give as a one-of-a-kind gift. Meanwhile, I hope you'll lean in here soon again. Until then, dear listeners, on to your wellsprings, divining and drinking from them, keeping your whole beings well-filled, well-flowing. Goodbye for now, and good spirits.